Thank you all for being here. I want to thank the panelists. Excited to hear from you about more about what we think is going to happen for the future of Waukesha County. I myself am particularly interested. I have lived most of my life in Waukesha County. I'm a Pewaukee native. Go Pirates. I'm a 20-year Muskego resident. Go Warriors. So eager to hear what you all think about what we're going to see here. And I want to start off with a rapid-fire thing to get us warmed up here. Do a SWOT analysis. SWOT standing for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Let's start off with strengths. Rapid-fire. What do you think are Waukesha County's biggest strengths? Matt, you want to go ahead and start, and we can go along?
Outdoor environment, our lakes.
I got my own. Thanks.
All right, I'll share.
Each got a mic.
I would say our workforce opportunities and the strength of our workforce and knowledge of our workforce.
Workforce and skills, school system.
That was mine too. I'm going to say that too. I think it starts pretty early here where people are getting into industry or getting exposure to different things they can do in comparison to other places.
Okay, now let's go to weaknesses. What are, when you think of weaknesses Waukesha County is dealing with? Paul, want to start?
Smaller families. We're not, like I said before, we're not naturally reproducing within Waukesha County, so we're going to have to reach out for the population to do what we need done.
I think traffic can be a little challenging, but I'm not too strong on the weaknesses.
I think a little bit is the promotion of different types of businesses. I think we hear a lot about the traditional manufacturing, and so some of the other industries don't necessarily get as much play, and so you don't really know those opportunities are out there. I can't tell you how many people are like, I had no idea we had any biotech in Muskego, and so I find that there's a lot of niches within that are not just manufacturing that people don't know about.
I would say the old adage, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. I think our county is largely developed, and I think it's going to be hard for us to think about doing things differently than what we've done the last 70 years.
Okay. Now what about opportunities? What are exciting opportunities is at the forefront for Waukesha County here? Bill, want to start?
Sure. I think as I tried to be maybe a little too visionary in my remarks, I think the industry opportunity and leveraging a great workforce is a great opportunity.
I personally have found that a lot of people who grew up here want to stay here, so that's encouraging. I think that speaks a lot about Waukesha County, not just the education of the jobs, but just the quality of life.
I think our location, being strategically located between the two largest metro areas in the state, puts us in the best position to capitalize on it because we don't have some of the challenges that maybe Milwaukee or Madison have because we're not in those cities, but yet we're strategically located in between them and we can have a major influence. I think this can be the economic engine of the entire state.
I think that it comes down to is the stability, again, and I'm going to talk about a workforce a little bit, but it's the stability of our business force. We have companies that branch off from larger companies because they don't want to do X, Y, and Z anymore. So this guy's going to do X, this guy's going to do Y, and then they start building their companies up. And we see a lot of growth that occurs there, but it keeps it regional. And that way, when they engage with the schools in the area, they engage with the communities in the area, they're homegrown. And they know what they want to do, but there's some innovation saying, we can do it a little bit different, we can do it better.
Lastly now, threats. What are the threats facing Waukesha County?
Milwaukee.
Oh boy, are we going to do that? Anyone else?
Okay, I'm going to elaborate on Milwaukee County real quick. It's not a huge threat, but I think the challenge that we see, and a reason I talk about Milwaukee is, like Matt brought up, we've got to look at population rings. And the growth of this region will continue to expand. When you look at his maps, and I go back to when we moved in the 60s with my four brothers, my parents, Elm Grove, Brookfield was the outer ring of Milwaukee. Now, Waukesha, Pewaukee is the outer ring. Oconomowoc right on the next pace. And we've got to look at how are we going to handle that. As Matt and I have talked about, we've got to look at smaller lots, we've got to look at higher densities, and get people to realize this is what the future is going to be for Waukesha County, because we are part of the growth ring.
I think the biggest threat is us being our own worst enemy and not thinking forward. I think there's a natural resistance to change that exists here because, let's face it, it's pretty great. And so naturally we're nervous to change what's already pretty good to figure out what could be. And I think if we do that, there are other parts of the state and there are other parts of the country, frankly, that will pass us by and we will be left behind. So I think we just need to think forward.
Yeah, I think sometimes you're a victim of your own success, and I think too we can't be comfortable where we are. We have to continue to grow and push forward, and so I think that is going to take different things in the next 30 years to do that. And so I think we just need to be really open, and I think different organizations, and I brought up WCTC, I have no plug there other than I just think they're thinking about things differently, and I really love that. I think it's going to take looking at traditional things that we've really seen grow, but we're going to need different things as we move forward.
Yeah, and technology is changing, and I think, if we don't, especially on the manufacturing front, capitalize on that, take advantage of that, and come up with creative public-private partnerships to, catch that ball, to take things to the next level. We risk losing it to neighbors or other parts of the country or the hemisphere.
So I've touched on a lot of things already, and we're going to dive deeper into some of them. Reminder, if you have any questions for this panel, please text your questions to me up here. Numbers on the screen or in the program. County Executive Farrow talked about the population, where it's at, about 410,000. His projection about 480,000 in 2050. Wanted to get the other panelists' thoughts about that. Do you think he's right on? Do you think he's maybe a little conservative? Do you actually think there's going to be more population growth? Thoughts on population growth from the other panelists besides Paul?
I guess I think about it a little bit more in terms of what's coming out of Waukesha County, not just populations. I think some amazing things and growth and wealth and capitalism can really happen in this state that can or in this county that can actually foster more for all of Wisconsin, not just Waukesha County. So, I mean, maybe I'm not thinking about that the right way, but I think for us, we can really develop something in Wisconsin that's going to attract people to Wisconsin as a whole state and really grow the whole state and actually draw people to where we're located. Cost of living and all of the different things that are great about Wisconsin that are currently happening on the coasts.
I think the opportunity there is to grow, industry and population. To Matt's points, the housing challenge is significant. I mean, I'd be in favor of more density. Most of our workforce travels from out of county, and I think that opportunity to increase the density, accommodate that growth could be pretty powerful.
I'm pretty excited because I was waiting for someone to volunteer that. So Bill, you're going to get invited to our public meetings, and then you can speak in favor because there's not a single soul else that does it. Oh yeah, no, nobody ever comes to speak in favor of it. Isn't that true, you guys? I think it's 70,000 people. It's about 30,000 households at an average of 2.4, not counting dogs. We're producing like 600 homes a year. The math doesn't work. So either we're going to figure out how to produce more homes at a price at which people can actually pay for, which is not what we're doing today, or the population is going to be 430,000. I would actually say it may even go down from where we're at if we continue on this trend line. So I think we have to do things differently. If we do, I think we can hit 470,000 people. But what we're doing today and what we've done over the last 14 years will not lead to 470,000 people. It'll be 410 right where we are today.
So let's pose a question to the audience related to what we're talking about here. Talking about population growth, where are people going to live? What type of housing development does Waukesha County need more of? I pose this question to you, the audience. Here are the choices you have. A is apartments. Does Waukesha County need more apartments? B, does Waukesha County need more luxury single-family homes priced $1 million and above? C, does Waukesha County need more subsidized affordable housing? D, does Waukesha County need more moderately priced single-family homes in the 400 to 600,000 range? Or E, other? I'm going to be curious to hear, we're curious to see the audience's thoughts on this. But Matt, let's go to you and let's talk more about this. You've touched on some of this, but you know, as far as you're eager to see the results, aren't you?
I do want to see those results. Try not to jump off my chair.
We've talked about, talking about housing affordability, and, density is brought up, and the challenges of just the economics right now, what things cost, what people can afford. What is the solution to providing more affordable housing, and that's a relative term, but the housing that the marketplace needs, so fewer people have to commute in, as Bill mentioned, fewer employees have to commute in from outside the county. What is it really going to take to crack this thing?
There's a really easy answer. We got to get out of our own way. We have to get over this idea that a home site that's a quarter acre in size is too small and not good enough. Because that's what we face in all of these public meetings. People say it's too small, it's too small, it's too small. Those homes are too small. It's going to hurt my value of my 4,000 square foot home that's on a half acre, or my 2,000 square foot home that's on a half acre in Brookfield that was built 70 years ago. And the fact of the matter is, what we have to do is provide housing people can afford to allow upward mobility throughout the housing stack, so that people that have a $400,000 home today that want to move into a $500,000 home actually have that opportunity. And then the person that has a $500,000 home can go buy a $700,000 home if they want to. But what happens right now is we have this missing component that's not being produced because our communities are not supporting, and I don't just want to point at town boards, common councils, and plan commissions, because I feel for them. We sit there and take the tomatoes right alongside our local plan commissioners and our local village boards and our local common councils. The reality is, what I think needs to get done is, I think a broader solution is to say, if you have a comprehensive master plan in your community, which every community has, by the way, if you've never looked at it, look it up. Every single community has it. We just need to follow the comp plans. And we need to make sure we have zoning that allows us to follow those comp plans. You'd be shocked how many times we go into communities and say, we just want to do what you have planned. And they say, no, we want bigger lots, or we want wider lots. It costs $1,500, it's probably an outdated number, more than $1,500 per linear foot to build a section of street. So every time we go into a community and they say, make them wider, make the homes bigger, what you're doing is pricing us out of the marketplace, and you're pricing our employee base out of the marketplace. So the cool thing about my kind of negative tone message today is it's super solvable. But please stop asking us to go next door and ask what you can do to help be a solution to the problem. Because the communities that are doing it are growing like crazy, and they're awesome. It's just, unfortunately, there's only a couple of those in all of Waukesha County, and all the other ones around the perimeter. And I don't have these stats, Steve, I wish we would have grabbed these, but the number of projects we are doing, our hub, we're based in Pewaukee. So out of the 6,000 home sites we develop, I'm gonna guess about half are in Waukesha County. So we've been here a long time. The majority of the work we're doing today is not in Waukesha County. So the reality is, we can fix this, but we have to be willing to make the hard decision, and that is to say, a $500,000 home does not bring in the riffraff. And I'm dead serious when I say this is the types of conversations we're having at a local level. That's not riffraff. These are people that we need. We need all income levels and all ages living in our communities to have vibrant communities. So I get passionate about it because we deal with this all the time, but it's solvable. It doesn't require subsidy. I wanted to take that one off the list, but I couldn't cross it off the screen. We don't need subsidy in Waukesha County. Waukesha County is great. We just need the willingness to do what the market needs.
Any other panelists? Paul, go ahead.
So we've started this project back in 2017. Suzanne, I think that's when our first attempt at looking at affordable housing in Waukesha County. Had a great discussion. We had realtors, we had developers, we had municipalities at the table to say, how do we do this? And we were starting to work on it and work our way through. COVID hit. We're not going to go there. And we're on the other side of it now. The challenge is we all have to take a little bit of a hit in our world. And I think that's one of the things that I look at. knowing the municipalities, there are some that are doing it very well. When you look at Sussex, Menominee Falls, that's where we think the growth are going to be because they're embracing the smaller size. I believe Oconomowoc looked at smaller sizes and working their way through. I know when I look at Waukesha and Brookfield, the challenges that they have with no more growth or very little growth that's left, they're working through what they can do. But then it comes to the other side of the equation, and it's self-interest is the greatest motivator. You have individuals that want to live in Waukesha County. They're willing to pay, unfortunately, whatever they need to move in here. And it has artificially raised all of our prices. Then we look at the cost of building it itself. Our costs have gone up through the roof, not just the lots like Matt was showing. There's so many incremental pieces to this puzzle that have grown. We've got to figure out how to pull each little piece back and say, okay, how can we do this and how can we set it up so it's affordable? You know, I have personal experience. I have a nephew who was just out looking for a home. He and his wife have been married a couple of years. They're expecting their second child. They have put offers on 15 different homes in Waukesha County. They finally got one. The house was built in 1963. I'm not going to say what municipality it's in. It's about a 1,600 square foot home, and they paid above asking and got it. There were 15 offers on that house, and it's over $400,000. So it's one of those where we know the challenges are there. How can we figure out to change this life cycle? I have a lot of people that I know that are in the same boat that I'm in. Our kids are gone. We have 2,800, 3,000, 4,000 square foot homes, but our mortgage rates are way down here. And why do I want to refinance up here when I can sit back down here and hang on to this? That's part of the challenge that we're going through. And the solutions that Matt talks about and others have talked about, it's going to take incremental approaches. I think there's things at the state level that we could change to say, let's work together. I think municipalities, we can look at impact fees and look at structures and say, is there a better way of doing this or is there a new way of doing it? So that we all take a piece of our puzzle.
I've had a few questions from the audiences related to transportation. Paul touched on this a little bit, predicting some I-94 expansion, Highway 164 expansion. I want to ask kind of a broad transportation question as far as what panelists see in terms of the traffic. Bill touched on it a little bit, traffic being somewhat of an issue, but even logistics-wise, if you're getting products shipped to your plant, roads, infrastructure, but also getting people commuting to your workplace, and mass transit. So we're talking about getting people, so what do you see as the biggest transportation issues, each of you panelists? Is it roads? What roads need improvement? Is there mass transit? Can mass transit solve some of these problems with getting people into the community, the workforce that we need? I want to jump on a transportation-related.
Well, I'll say from our perspective, manufacturing company, pulling workforce, especially from Milwaukee, can be a real challenge. Wish there was a sort of a shared economy like workforce transportation model. Uber or Lyft, too expensive there, but if there's something that is makes it easier for that workforce to come in, because again, earlier conversation, they're not living nearby, and manufacturing is an amazing engine of wage growth and opportunity, but you got to get people to the job. So that's one of the challenges I see.
Kind of a not super popular idea, and I think, Paul, you mentioned it about 164, but if you look at our county, our main corridors, I-94, Highway 16, Capitol Drive, coming out through Brookfield, most of it's east-west. Even 43 is southwest. If we actually wanted significant growth for 25 and 50 years, we have to get to the southwest and northwest parts of our county because it's the least developed area, and there still is developable land. There's not sewer and water out there. That's solvable too. But if you were to picture like Highway 67, for example, as a major north-south corridor, that would open up development. Almost any metro area, if you travel around the country, you're going to see it's built in rings, right? Like we got the 894 ring. That's the only ring in Milwaukee, really. Now we have that bypass kind of around Waukesha sort of faster, not really, and you always get lost if you go around town, so you can't do that. But like, there are ways that we can expand these major, faster flowing traffic corridors and it would open up significant development for years to come. So I see the mayor of Oconomowoc sitting there, so I wasn't suggesting driving 67 right through town, but I do think that sort of infrastructure north and south would help immensely expand housing and business opportunities.
I was looking for David out there because you're talking about a flexible ride system. We have a flex ride program right now, and it's in its infancy. We've got a couple locations that it's working through at Menominee Falls and New Berlin. The biggest challenge that we have, and we know there's got to be a solution out there, is with some form of mass transportation. We don't have the density to support it. And so our biggest challenge has always been the last mile. How do we get someone from this point to their work point? And coming up with FlexRide really is kind of a focus on a Uber type system that works to get the individuals to that last location. I know when we think about Oconomowoc, they're looking at Enterprise program has another thing where they can use fleet vehicles to work with companies so they can do a ride share within the companies. It's little things like that that I think are going to be very important for businesses to engage with to help find the solution to get employees from point A to point B. Then I go back to, as Matt was just saying, our society is based on the car. I mean, face it, that's how we built Waukesha County. Everybody had a car, everybody was using that for transportation. How do we create that system to be more efficient moving people, especially north-south, as much as we do east-west?
I think it'd be kind of fun to have like a Uber, but somebody's designated in your in your company for different areas, and they can make extra money through bringing people to work and bringing people home. And we set up systems within our companies where, you know, we can create more wealth for someone to be the person who does that. I mean, my daughter does DoorDash, and it's with the systems today, it can be so smart, and we could just set up networks for groups of companies, and there's a lot of people who want to make that extra money. So I don't know, it seems like maybe we have to do something that's a little more innovative.
I want to talk about the workforce in Waukesha County in terms of talent and attracting talent, and how does Waukesha County stay competitive to 2050 in attracting talent to live and work here? You know, Rach, let's start with you as far as what is Waukesha County doing right, but what does it need to do going forward to make this place talented people who could live theoretically anywhere want to live and work here?
I think people who want to work in Waukesha County, especially in more of the high technology industries, they want to work with stunning employees. I know with the team that I'm recruiting, I'm really trying to find the best talent, because I think the talent that I'm finding that wants to live in Waukesha County want to work with equally stunning employees. And that goes from operations to our quality to the people in the office. I think the way we can really keep great talent is by providing leadership and development for employees beyond just the job, beyond the training. You know, people have their whole lives, they bring their whole lives to work, and they bring their whole life home. And so I think the more we can provide a great environment for their whole life, and that means it's extra work. It's extra work, but it's worth it. And to cultivate the right kind of employees within our area really gets into, I actually wanted to speak today on what I think companies will look like in 2050 with regards to what employees are gonna want from us. It's a completely flipped environment where the managers are not at the top and they are supporting stunning employees, but I didn't have time to do two topics, so that's another day. But I think, quite honestly, I think the best we can do is we can really develop our people, and it gets into, we talk a lot about training, but a lot of it is just, it's mental health, it's mindfulness, it's all the things people are going to work with every day. Everybody has stuff. So if you look at somebody and they seem perfect, they have stuff. And so the more we can help people with their lives, I think the more we can actually grow great companies that are going to stay in our area and cultivate everything we're doing.
Go ahead, Bill.
So we have an economy that's changing. You know, we talked about reshoring and manufacturing, a renaissance, a new appreciation of it. We also have technology that's rapidly changing, much more digitized. We see machine learning, we see AI, we see the sensor technology. And, I love the programs that, like, say, Rich Barnhouse is doing at WCTC around incorporating AI, mechatronics. You got the MATC with their machining program, advanced manufacturing programs. The challenge, as I see it as a company leader, is that a lot of those programs are focused on the traditional education model of full-time classes, typically student paid, and looking for opportunities, sort of on the come at the finish of it. But if we as a society really want to catch this ball of the manufacturing renaissance, it's not going to happen solely by better training of folks coming out of, in their like teens and early 20s. It needs to be upskilling at scale, looking at the entire installed base population, your incumbent workforce, and how do you bring them up? And that requires a different way of thinking about skilling. It's got to be around industry-friendly hours. It needs to be shorter courses that allow the individual to both, company paid, learn, but also create value back at the company. And it needs to, be stackable over time. And we need to think differently about how we upskill at scale, because it's not the same model of how we educate at scale.
Anyone else on attracting talent?
I'm going to try to be brief. What's exciting listening to you two talk about what we're looking for and what we want to do, it's already starting. And I think that's what we've got here in the county. And Rich, my gosh, you must have paid these people some great endorsements here. But Rich came in and said, we're changing how we do education. If you're a junior and senior in high school, by the time you graduate high school, you're going to have an associate's degree. He wants to go even further and say, we're going to create the 3-year degree program to say, if you get out, you've got your degree, go in the workforce, have fun. But at the same time, there are some of us that don't want to go through and get a degree. We want to get a skill set. And the apprenticeship program is open as well. And I think that's what I'm truly seeing is a change societally that says, hey, a technical college is just as good as a university, and a carpenter is just as important in our society as a program engineer or another position. And making that change and getting parents to realize, when a parent comes to me and says, my son was going for accounting, 2 years into the program, came home and said, Dad, I want to be a plumber. And his dad looked at him and said, are you serious? He goes, yeah, I've talked to somebody, I want to start the apprenticeship, this is what I want to do. And his son is loving it. That's what we've got to be able to foster, is that change. And Bill, I love what you said about, as we get older, we're going to continually learn. We've got to be able to say, at 25, at 30, at 50, at the next decade, you can still change and you can still learn new things, because you've got the opportunity and you've got the ability to do it. What I see from what we've done in the county, we've set ourselves up perfectly for the next 25 plus years, education-wise and support-wise, to be prepared for 2050.
I'd really love to see us get to the point where, speaking of apprenticeships, and you're right, I mean, they've really been coming around nicely, but where it is as common to see a 35 or 40-year-old apprentice as it is to see a 18, 20-year-old apprentice, because that would be more reflective of giving someone the skills to they've already been in the workforce, but they see this changing technology, a changing opportunity, and sort of midlife, there's that structure there and the expectation and all to actually make that pivot. So heading in the right direction, I think, if we can accelerate.
What's the biggest evolution of the economy going to be in Waukesha County in 2050? How is the economy going to look different? Rachel, I'll throw that one to you.
I think we have to set up for it now. I don't think we can wait. I think I really believe there's so many talented people that are being educated, whether it's technical school or college that would love to stay here, and we need to create an environment where they want to stay here and they are aware of all the different things they can do. There's just such a hunger for these different majors that are not necessarily traditional Wisconsin careers. And so I would love to see not only us be proud of our education, but proud that we have the industry that follows the graduation here in the state. So that's what I would like to see.
Bill Hauser, you touched on this quite a bit with your intro remarks. Is it manufacturing? Is it services? Is it biotech? Are we all going to be just under the rule of AI, our masters? What's our economic world going to look like in 2050 in Waukesha County?
I think it's going to be a variety of industries. I mean, you look at manufacturing, it is 19%, and there are a lot of other, great industries in the mix. But I always like the model that you talk about. Computer can beat a human chess player, but a human chess player enabled by a computer can beat a computer. And I think there's a future there of technology, skill-enabled humans that's extremely bright. I look at it as an augmenter. One sort of related point I'd love to add is I've often thought it would be great to bring to Wisconsin and Wisconsin schools the co-op model. Northeastern University is very strong on that, where you are actually for a semester at a time working inside companies while you're also going to school. We do it on a little bit of a small scale, smaller scale, being part of the GPS Education Partners program, where half days of school, then the other half days out in industry, and it's great that way. But I think that needs to accelerate, because you don't want to have, okay, you've had your school period, now you have life, now you've got your work period of life. It needs to be mixed all the way through and getting that exposure and opportunities.
Can I just tack on one thing, because you spurred some thought. I think one of the things I heard when BioFord was talking about one of the strengths of why they think that we have a chance of winning the grant for our biohealth tech hub, and that's because a lot of the technology locations in the country have a lot of the research and technology but don't have the manufacturing side of it. And so I really think that when I heard that, that just resonated with me, that our ability not only to design things and to engineer them and to research them, but also to manufacture in this state. So I actually think, when I think biotech, we don't think manufacturing, but we're a manufacturer, and I think there's a lot that we could do that involves the engineering side and the biotech side, and we can differentiate there, and I really thought that was a really good comment by BioFord.
Last question as we're running out of time. With considering all of the attributes Waukesha County has, we've talked about, what is the biggest thing in your mind that Waukesha County needs to do going forward to leverage its opportunities and its advantages? Matt, we'll start with you. What's the most important thing Waukesha County needs to do?
This is not going to be surprising to anybody. I think we need to utilize the one resource that we can't possibly create more of, which is land. We need to utilize it better, more efficiently, and accept the fact that the way we've done it the last 70 years might not actually last 50 years, because there's a 20-year segment there that we did it pretty good. But then we need to look at doing this differently going forward. We are running out of land, no matter what anybody says. We are running out. We need to use it efficiently, and I hope we do.
Paul?
Somebody's got to say it. We got to invest in hover cars. That's the whole key, right? I would say from a government perspective, more collaboration between the municipalities and the counties to be as efficient as we can with every tax dollar providing the services that we've got to look at. And we need to continue to look at how we can do that.
I find it to be Waukesha to be a great place to do business, and very easy when we want to do expansions or anything on the growth side. So please hope it keeps up its past in those regards.
I think we need to listen to the younger people in our company, and they should be at this meeting. I personally, my population is pretty young in my company, and I have learned more from them in what we should do with our company and in this industry over the last year and a half that I've been there. So I would love to see the leadership coming to these types of events and talking to these events and getting those ideas out. I think the next big ideas and the just new open thought about what we could do is really coming from a younger generation, and we need to get them in places where they can speak about it and give us those ideas.
After all, the future's all about them. That's all the time we have for our panel. So Matt, Paul, Bill, Rachel, thank you very much.